let's talk about this last episode of 90 Day the Single Life. First, starting off with Gino. So we see Gino, and he decides to show up to like this crystal shop, and he's wandering around. He looks out of place, and this girl asks him, "Hey, can I help you find some crystals?" And he's like, actually, I'm here to see my lawyer. I was so thrown off when he said that. I'm like, why are we meeting a lawyer at the crystal shop? Is he trying to get like good vibe crystals before meeting up with Gino? But apparently he owns this crystal shop, and he met up with Gino in his back office, and his lawyer looked just like Elon Musk with glasses, in my opinion. He sits down with Gino, and Gino tells him his whole situation, and his lawyer was like, dude, why haven't you applied for divorce already? You need to get the ball rolling as fast as possible. The lawyer made a very valid point, like, say if Jasmine was to go buy a house tomorrow, Gina would be on the hook for half of that house, and she did eventually end up getting a house with Matt. So this is the time right now to sit there and divorce, and I honestly don't know why he's waited this long anyways. I can't help but think, okay, are you just trying to hold on to this because you need a storyline, or are you still like in love with Jasmine in the back of your head and hoping things aren't going to work out with her and Matt and she's going to come running back to you? I think Gino's that delusional that he thinks that's going to happen in the back of his head, as much as he likes to convince himself that he's done with Jasmine. And then we see Gino go out on a date with this girl later on in the episode. And I'm not going to lie, all the dates that he's had like this whole season, I have not really bought that the whole thing between him and Natalie is genuine, because I just cannot understand why Natalie would give Gino the time of day. But this date actually seemed legit, but this girl was like 20 years younger than Gino. Actually, she's like 25, 26 years younger than Gino, and she even pointed out that her father was older than Gino, but it looked like they're having a good time. They met on social media, and then we see a clip for the tell-all, and I guess they're gonna bring Jasmine out at the tell-all, and she's gonna be like one of the main events at the tell-all. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm just so over the whole Jasmine and Gino storyline. Like, they've been broken up. I know they do this at the Single Life tell-all, but the whole storyline with Jasmine and trying to bring back Jasmine any chance they can, it's just getting so played out at this point. It feels like they're beating a dead horse. It's just gotten to the point where I feel like Jasmine's just repeating herself over and over again. She's monetized on all her Instagram and Facebook and social media platforms. So after the show, she was out there spilling tea and exposing Gino on her platforms, you know, as a way to try to get a bag. And I just feel like at this point, she's already said everything a million times, and everything she's been saying on social media about Gino recently is just the same thing she's already said 10 times before. And I just got a feeling that's probably what the tell-all is going to be. Like, I don't know. I hope it's interesting, and I hope she doesn't start chucking shoes at anybody again this tell-all. And then let's talk about Sophie and Pedro. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually felt bad for Pedro this season, because I feel like Sophie just wasted his time. I feel like Pedro really liked Sophie and he wanted to settle down, get himself a wife, but I don't think Sophie was just ready to settle down and find a relationship. I think she's still just in that like fun dating stage where she wants to go out on dates, but she doesn't want anything serious. And I think Sophie needs to be honest with people about what she really wants, because she's just gonna end up dragging people along and hurting them in the process. She ends up going out with Pedro, and then she didn't like how his family treated her, so she goes out on a date with another man, and this made Pedro feel some type of way. And I don't blame him, because here he was buying all this stuff for Sophie, treating her like she was his own girlfriend, just for her to go out on a date with another man and make out with another man the next day. Yeah, I don't blame Pedro for being mad about that. And after Pedro found out about that, he's like, yeah, this girl's wasting my time. So he decided to pack his bags up and leave a day early. And honestly, I think that they need to stop bringing Sophie back at this point, because I think she's just gonna end up hurting anybody that she goes out on dates with, because she's not ready to settle down. And even she admitted, like, yeah, I want to settle down one day, but I don't think I'm ready for that now. I'd like to find someone eventually, but you can tell she's still just wanting to live her best single life right now, and she's still trying to find herself, and she needs to fully find herself before she focuses on finding someone else. last but not least, we got Kimberly. She went on this date with this guy, and she was really feeling this guy, and this guy had his daughters meet up with them to go out on this date. And while they're out on this date, his daughters bring up the fact, yeah, you know, it's hard to find someone who doesn't have baggage. And they're absolutely right, especially as you get older. Everybody has something that's happened at some point in their life. Some people have bigger things than others. But that made Kimberly feel a lot better about the situation, because she's like, okay, maybe they'll be more accepting now, knowing that everyone has baggage, knowing my baggage, and the fact that I put 2 kids up for adoption. And you can just tell, like, as Kimberly's on this date, it feels like she can't even fully be in the moment and enjoy these dates, because the whole time she's just scared about what she has to do in the future, telling this guy about the fact that she has 2 adopted children. And then after the dinner was done, Kimberly went back to this guy's house, and they're sitting at this guy's house, and she's like, oh my god, I have to tell this guy now. So she eventually was like, hey, I need to talk to you. And he's like, okay. And she's like, so I want to let you know that I have 2 kids that I put up for adoption. And he said, oh wow. And I know if I'm telling someone a deep story, they respond like that, I'm going to kind of feel some type of way. And that's kind of how Kimberly was. She's like, oh my god, please don't judge me. Like, that's the last response I want to hear you say. But he's like, no, go on. And she said, yeah, so I put 2 kids up for adoption. She said, it's not because, you know, I'm just like a shit mom. It's just I was not in a position to take care of them at the time. If I had somebody like you at the time, things would have been completely different. And this guy was such a little sweetie pie. He said, you know what? I'm not judging you. And she's like, are you sure? Because it's just rough for me to talk about this baggage. And he said, wait a minute. Please don't call this baggage, because these are children that you love. And I'm glad that he pointed that out, because it is true. I mean, I know she kind of likes to look at it as baggage, but she needs to come up with another word for it. And he's like, yeah, just call it your history. You know, this is part of who you are. And he said, honestly, I don't see you any different after knowing this stuff. And I think he actually respects her more. He said, look, it makes me realize how much of a strong person she is because of everything that she's been through. And it was just such a nice, beautiful moment. And they ended up having a nice, vulnerable moment together. He said he was still accepting of her. He still liked her. He wanted to see her again. And then he invited Kimberly to spend the night. And she said, no, I'm not going to spend the night, because at that point, she was not only physically tired, but she was emotionally tired, just stressing out about this all day. She was just ready to go home, hit the sack, and call it a night. And he said, okay, that's fine. But next time, you know, maybe next time when you're in town, you can spend the night with me. And after the producer, or the person who worked for 90 Day Fiancé, or for the producers, exposed on Reddit, and I covered in a video a few weeks ago that all the dates that Kimberly has been on this season have been fake, I was not gonna cover any more Kimberly's storyline. But I don't know, part of me wants to tell myself I hope this is true, because this guy seems like such a sweetie pie. But then again, maybe he's being so accepting because this is a fake storyline. But I don't know. I would be curious to see if we see this guy again in the future. If we don't see him again in the future, I'm going to be like, yeah, this is definitely a storyline. But for the sake of Kimberly and hoping that she eventually finds love, I hope it's real. But, I mean, it's just crazy that she goes from Soulja Boy to this guy. Because this guy seems to be the full package. He's so sweet. He has 2 beautiful daughters. He seems like he's a good guy. He's got a nice house. And I think this is everything that Kimberly's been looking for. But that's pretty much it, guys. I also covered Courtney and her man Phil in a separate video, so check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, next episode we are going to have the tell-all. I wonder how long the tell-all is going to be. I'm very curious to see how Ross Matthews, the new host, ends up hosting this tell-all. Like, I really was hoping he was going to dig more, but I don't know, in some of the teasers, it didn't seem like he was digging much more than Sean did. And then again, I know that they're limited to the amount they can dig because they have that little earpiece in their ears, and I'm sure the producers were like, okay, don't push it too far because we don't want anybody to get pissed off and walk out. But I hope that he's able to do something different than Sean, besides just like start to get to the nitty gritty and then want to immediately move on. That's what pissed me off about Sean. It's like, just when I feel like we're getting somewhere, you're like, okay, well, I don't think we're gonna get to that or cover that all today. Let's move on to the next person. I'm like, oh my god, man, like you were 2 seconds away from getting this person to spill the tea. So I hope Ross is able to do something different, and I'm very curious to see what a new host of the tell-all is going to do and how this tell-all turns out. I think the most excited I am for this tell-all is to see Courtney, Cole, and Philip, and see, who is the other couple? I'm curious to see Pedro and Sophie meet up in person again and have his family call her out. But that's it for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.